We didn't do our thing.
Oh, that's right. Gotta remember to do that. You go, I go. Hello, everyone. It is Monday morning. I am super excited to be with everyone today. I'm Dr. Isela Garcia.
And I'm Nina Vasquez.
And this is Trauma Talks in Truth, where we have conversations about kind of anything that comes to our minds, what we might be experiencing in life. We really try to bridge the worlds between trauma healing and spiritual development and growing our awareness. So what's today's topic, Nina?
Today's topic is how to manage yourself when there's terrible things happening in the world.
I will tell you, this one's tough. And I'm going to tell you why, from my perspective, what's going on, because I stay very connected to what's happening in the world. Nina doesn't stay as connected. And I don't have, I think that's good for a lot of people to not stay as connected to what's going on in the world. The reason why I stay hyper connected to what's happening in the world is because I have historically worked with Black and Brown communities, marginalized communities. And in my work, there has been in the last 15 years, a significant amount of stuff that's happened in our Black and Brown communities and people from marginalized communities. And because I work with people, I want to make sure that I'm attuned to what's happening so that I can show up in the way that can be most supportive to folks. So I am hyper connected to what's happening across the world. And, I listen, I have some folks on TikTok that I follow pretty extensively. So I know on a daily what's happening in all parts of the world. Yeah. So for me, it's really about coming from a trauma-informed place. And so, when things happen, especially in our Black and Brown communities, that we feel it. It's an impact of who we are. And so it helps me go, okay, this is what's happening. This is what we collectively are feeling. What can I do to be supportive, to be responsive, to help people find their sense of safety when there isn't the indications around us are saying, it's not a safe place to be, right? Yeah. And so how do I be that for folks?
Yeah, Isela is often my source of news of what's going on in the world, but I have learned a lot about what happens when you keep for me in my life, I think this was also a trauma response of mine, where I just kind of stayed in my turtle shell, blinders on. And I didn't realize how unconscious that was. But as I work with people and I coach people regularly, it is important for me to know also. So before I came on today, I just kind of looked online to see what is happening in the world today. And the moment you do that, you see some fact you think is a fact. X number of people have, for example, in today's news was X number of people who have passed away in California in these fires, and X number of people, it was 24 people who passed away. I could have the number wrong. We're then so many humans are also missing.
Right.
So as soon as you do that, you're going to have an emotional experience.
Right.
Yeah. Whether it's you shut it down or you don't look at it or you feel the heaviness or that grief, you do. But Isela, can you talk to us about even when we're not looking? Because I have this idea that if I don't look, I don't have to feel. So can you talk to us about how you're affected by things that are energetically by the collective, even when we're not looking?
Yeah, even when we don't pay attention, when we don't check the news, when we're not constantly getting information, energetically there is a collective experience, and right now energetically there are lots of things happening. We've got our extra dimensional beings who are really coming close to contact, so we've got lots of that going on. We've got several wars happening. We've got some stuff happening in Africa that's pretty frightening. We've got the fires happening in California, which I don't believe were by accident. I think there are reasons behind the fires, unfortunately. And we've got, TikTok being banned because people are coming together and actually building community and talking to each other. That needs to be shut down because, Lord forbid, we actually know what's happening in each other's lives. And truth starts to come out when we start to connect with one another. And so that I think is the reason why it's being banned, and got shit to do with data. And I think that then we've got, this election, a president coming in, and which is caused a lot of divisive or division between many of us. So whether you are consciously aware of it or not, there is so much in the collective in terms of energy. There's a very slim chance that you're not being impacted by that. And because unless you're living in a cave by yourself, you're interacting with other people who are carrying the weight of these experiences as well. One of the things that I think is critically important is, so back when I first was doing my spiritual, my journey of my own spiritual development, I really came from that thought place, the thinking through my thoughts, right? Have a thought that's negative, I want to change it. Something bad happened, I want to change the perspective. Everything happens for a reason, and we get into this place of trying to, I think, not feel what's happening. And so we bypass the emotional state and we go into everything's fine, everything will be okay. And I have to tell you that, it worked for a little while, but then, we get triggered because fear will show up for us.
Yeah.
If there's something that's happening in the world that triggers or activates an old memory, we're going to have an experience.
Yeah.
And we keep trying to bypass it and override it, ignoring the sensations of the body. When the fire started happening in California, now I'm in Arizona, so I'm a hop and skip from California. I have spent a lot of time in Southern California and central Southern, like Ventura County and South. I've done a lot of work out of California. I'm still working for California right now. I have been there more times than I can tell you. So I have a deep connection to California. And those fires started happening. Man, that was hard. That was hard.
What do you do? What did you do?
What I would have done,
Yeah.
what I would have done a long time ago is I would have been like, well, it's all happening for a reason. I have to trust in how the world is being orchestrated right now. There are divine reasons that I don't have any understanding or awareness of. Like I would go to that place so I wouldn't feel.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't feel it.
Yeah.
I let myself feel empathy and sadness for what's happening out there.
Yeah.
Because we can sit here and talk about the billionaires. We could talk about what we think in terms of conspiracies. We can talk about, there are people who have lived in their homes for 40 years. Yeah. Their insurance companies have pulled out from covering their fire protection, pulled out. They have no other source of resources.
Yeah.
At this point, now I'm sure because what we're seeing is the community is coming together.
Yeah.
But it's like there are thousands of people who have been displaced.
Yeah.
And I just let myself feel that. And for an entire day, I cried off and on, just watching this happen. And there was something that happened the week prior, or same thing. It's like something happened. I don't even remember what it was right now. But I just let myself feel that.
Yeah.
And extend the love and empathy that I have for what people are experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think that we talk about that enough, that it's okay, but we're so afraid of feeling.
Yeah. In the moment somebody wants to talk about it to you, especially if it's a friendship, like a coaching relationship is way different, but like friendship, the other person often wants to like put a band-aid on it really quick, right? Like, but sometimes, invalidating your feelings, like, but remember, you're okay,
Right.
and it's okay for us to be sad together. It's okay
Yeah.
for us to be heavy together. It's okay for us to be affected by it. And we can often, what you're describing is spiritually bypassing. When you said, I'll just go to the place where, like, there's a reason why, or a divine, orchestration of all of this. We don't
Right.
really need to do that, right? Right
Yeah.
away.
I have to tell you, I've become intolerant of people then wanting to spew their conspiracy ideas at me
Hmm.
and go, this is why, and this is how, and this, like, I've become intolerant of that. And really the reason is because we are one and we are interconnected. And there may be lots of things that are happening in an undercurrent that we just are completely unaware of.
Mhm.
But we are people having this experience together, and we need to just allow ourselves to feel, to
Mhm.
just feel. And I want to share the story. I did a TikTok video in when I was in really in the middle of really just letting myself have the emotion. I did a TikTok video a couple days ago, and it's a story that I tell often about empathy. So I work with kids. Most people who follow me know that I offer a lot of stories around children because that's been my professional experience. So when a child is having like big emotions, or maybe they get hurt, or something is happening where I'm providing support, so the child is with me, inevitably their other children will start to kind of look. They'll be like, what's going on? Like, what's like that? And so many times adults will say, this isn't about you. Walk away. I've got it handled. Go find something else to do. And I don't do that. What I do is I notice that the other children are curious about what's happening. They're wondering about what's happening. And that curiosity actually comes from a place of concern.
Hmm.
Through the adult lens, we go, oh, they're just trying to be nosy Rosie, right? Like, like the rubberneckers on the freeway.
Business.
Right. Mind your own business. Yeah. And I invite their children in, and I go, I'm wondering if you're wondering about what's going on with Marco.
Hmm.
Are you
Mhm.
curious about what's going on with Marco? Do you notice Marco's crying right now? And are you wondering about that? And so then I engage in a conversation with him about it, while Marco might be in my arms, I might be holding him, I might be, and what I'll say to children is, we have to think about how we can be most helpful to Marco. What does Marco need right now? And what can we do to help Marco right now? Now, we have to know Marco, and we have to be able to understand what his specific needs are, because what might be helpful for Marco may not be helpful for Teresa, right? So
Mhm.
we have to be able to really attune to what Marco needs, and then be able, and it might be step away. It might be he might want something to comfort him from his cubby. It's like, so that's that frame of reference is what I use when I see fires or when I see tragedy happening in the world. I think about, okay, how can I be most helpful in this situation? What
Yeah.
can I do? What can I do? So I want to share with you. Let's see if we get it here. This is what I use. And I used this when I was an administrator of programs. Do you see that?
Mhm.
Okay. So this center block right here, or this center circle here, is what I call my control. Okay. This is what I control right here. Okay. Now, here, and I don't know if it's going to let me, I'm going to have to probably do, because it's going to hide behind the box here. Okay. So here is concern. Okay. So this concern, I'm going to place right in here. Okay. Let me get it a little, because I'm a little weird like that. Okay. And then this is, no, sorry. I messed that up. This is concern, and this is influence. Okay. Oops. So this is what I have influence of, and this is what I'm concerned about. Okay. It's really easy for us to feel very, very overwhelmed by what's happening in the world. Especially if there's just this fear of what's going to happen with the new administration, what's going to happen with first contact. If you've never, had any kind of experience understanding extra dimensional beings, this might be a very scary thing, particularly because movies make it seem very, very scary. What's happening with the fires can be scary. There's also lots of conversation around a former CSI, no, not CSI. What's the CIA employee who's talking about things happening here in the United States as a form of terrorism that could actually start this year. And so those kinds of things can be incredibly scary, right? Because we don't have any control over those things. Okay. And so I talked at the front end of this about allowing ourselves to feel, which I think is critically important, because that's where empathy comes from. And so I do this to help me kind of balance this out. So when we look at what's within my control, let's say with the fires. So let's talk about that. What's within our control?
We can feel our feelings. We can express empathy. We can donate or serve the community in some way. What am I missing?
We can even understand our perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So we do have control over how we're perceiving the experience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what's critically important. I get to choose how I'm going to understand what's happening.
Yeah.
I get to choose the meaning that I'm putting behind these experiences. Okay. This is a very linear, for those of you who are linear in the way that you experience the world, this is a very linear way to work through some of these bigger challenges that are happening in the world that we don't have any control over. Okay. So you can feel, so I'm going to put allow feelings to emerge.
I think also we can energetically,
Yep.
How would we express it? We can energetically send energy and belief, and with our power of our body and our mind.
Yep. I think this is, if you know anything about traveling energetically, the power in this is pretty significant. Like, we can extend love because we are all energy. The same thing where I'm tapping into people and on Facebook and I don't actually see anyone, that's me energetically basically tapping into you across the world sometimes. I mean, I've had people on my Facebook lives that are like literally in like England, and I can energetically connect to them. And so it is powerful for us to radiate love and connection and acceptance and just all of those things, to just reverberate our frequency out to wherever. And in this case, the fires and the people who are going through all of those experiences and the helpers. I was, Mr. Rogers a story that I'm sure I've told here before, but the Mr. Rogers asked his mom when something had happened in the world, what do you do when scary things happen? And his mom said, you always find the helpers. There will always be helpers. And inevitably we see that. We see the helpers show up, and we're over here, hundreds and sometimes thousands of miles away. We can help the helpers, and we can do that by supporting financially, doing what we can to help, doing what we can to help. Okay. If anybody else has anything that you think I should add to this here. So this next part, my influence, how can I be influential? Okay. So this kind of aligns a little bit with what I can control, because we can be influential by donating. Oops. Okay.
The way you speak about it and the way you support other people. And I think, I mean, I don't want to ignore that. Like, we can also influence in a negative way, or maybe, in a unserving, I should use that word instead of an unuseful way, if we allow our ego to spew negative thoughts or thoughts that aren't useful.
Right. Yep. So how we speak. What else? Do we have anybody else who's on live who wants to share?
There are some people on live, I just noticed.
Yeah, if you want to share, how else can we influence? How else can we influence others? Most often here, this is really comes to not just in this situation, but it's also in how we relate to others. Okay? Because we don't have any control over other people. Okay? We don't have any control, but we can be influential in our relationship with others, how we engage. And often this goes also into what you just said, how we speak about things. And so we can be influential in that way. Another way that we can be influential is community. So what communities can we be a part of and join? Community, oops, it's hard for me to talk and type at the same time. What communities are we a part of that actually can be of service or be helpful, so that we can be influential in whatever it is that's happening right now? Okay. And this goes into our political decisions, or our decisions around even our spiritual awareness. Their communities are a significant part of building this energetic network, to be able to create change collectively. Okay.
Lori says sharing our views and stories.
Yes. Good one. Good one. Okay. And I have to tell everyone that even though I'm using this as an example for this, I use this in my life. I literally use this in my life. When I was leaving organizations, when I had maybe difficult things happening in a relationship, having a difficult experience with even my partner, my husband, I go to this. And this is actually the first time I ever saw this. This came from Stephen Covey. And I don't know that Stephen Covey was the one who created this process, but it has served me in so many ways, because it helps me understand what's truly, truly within my control, and how I can influence, and then what's not in my control at all.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes, especially if you are worried or concerned for the world right now, you don't have immediate control of what is happening. So you have to think about, how can I be influential? Okay. But right now, in my moment, right now, where I am right now, I don't have, like, I can choose how I'm going to think about this, feel about this. Like, that's my immediate control.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm. We have a couple more comments I'll share.
Okay.
Onessa says, pray for those who do, offer love and light. Love that. And Pam says, send love and join some group meditations.
Yes.
That too.
Okay. All right. And then finally, we're looking at concern. Okay. And I'm sure, unless you are super like not connected to what's happening in the world, you probably have some concerns. I have some grave concerns about women's rights. I have a daughter, and I'm concerned about what's going to happen. I have family, obviously we're people of color. I'm concerned about what's going to happen to us, people of color, particularly our brown people. If the administration that's coming in does what they promised to do. So I have a lot of concern. I don't have immediate control over this. Okay. So these are these greater, oops, greater world events and occurrences and this might even also be something that is happening in your community. It might even be where you live right now. I have concern about this. And then what I have to look at is, okay, given my concern, how can I be influential? What can I do to influence this greater concern? Okay. It may also be part of, why we vote, right? It's why we join these communities and to raise our voices. It's
Mhm.
an important part of this entire experience. So I go through this process, and at the end of my day, this is where I end up landing once again. Okay. This is important. This is where I land. So I have this experience and I come back to what can I do? What's within my control? Okay. How I think, how I feel, my perspectives, and the choices I make. Does that
How do
make sense?
you, yeah, I think this is really great because some might be very literal and think it's at the end of the day. You allow yourself to like be there all day, but what does it look like in real time for you?
So in real time, I'm going to stop share here. So in real time, like when the fires happened, because there's so many things happening right now. The
There's a lot.
fire started to happen. I just allowed myself to feel sadness and grieve, and I cried off and on through the day, like just feeling the fear that must feel like. Some people were given notice. Some people were like literally the fire within a matter of seconds was like fire was like 3 football fields within a matter of seconds. That's how fast the fire came in some of the communities. And so I allowed myself to just feel that. And then I bring myself, so I would say probably I give myself like a day, like a full day where I allow myself to just have that experience. And then that's when I get back into like my meditation and I get quiet and I do my hand over heart, hand over belly, and just
Mhm.
recognize, tap into my own sense of safety,
Yeah.
my own sense of connection to myself and to
Mhm.
source.
Yeah.
Um, I wonder if there's anything coming up for me, the fear of the fires. Like, is there anything showing up for me? And that's why I'm responding this way. Like, is there fear? And so I might ask myself, what am I afraid of right now?
Yeah.
What's the fear?
I think that's what's so profound is that concern can lead to catastrophic thinking.
Yeah.
And so, if you can bring yourself back to your body and create a sense of safety in your body right now, you will have different thoughts,
Yeah.
right? We don't actually have to like say, oh, okay, I'm future casting some make believe scenario. Just come back to your body.
Yep.
Come back to
What
your body. Your body, when you have safety in your body, you will not future cast some scenario that isn't happening right now. You'll be in your body. Yeah.
what's happening for me right now, right?
Mhm.
I am safe, right?
Yeah.
I'm loved. My husband and I had a conversation, like, if something were to happen here, um, in Phoenix, what would that look like for us? What would we do?
Mhm.
And so we were able to, he and I kind of talked. I talked to my daughter because that's scary for kids to
Yeah.
see something like that. So I talked to her and said, what's coming up for you? Do you have any fears around that?
Mhm.
Because it's far away, but she sees places that she recognizes, going up in flames on TV. And so, it's like and having those conversations and allowing her to express her concern, and then bringing ourselves back to the present moment, to what's happening in front of us, what we have control over, what we don't have control over, and how we can be most helpful. I always go back to that place. What can I do in this moment to be most helpful?
Yeah. Yeah. I think I would add for me personally is just asking myself, is this useful?
Mm,
Right? Because sometimes I have family that just watch TV all day and they just watch the news all day. And you might not be in an age group where you can watch the news all day, but if you are, ask yourself, is it useful
mm,
to get
mhm.
minute by minute updates? Is it
I
useful?
get that. Yeah.
Right? Because you're going to need to come back to your body so many times throughout that time. And so I don't know if it's useful for you. I can't tell you that answer, but asking yourself, whatever you are doing, whatever you're thinking, is it useful?
Mhm.
Is it
That's
useful?
actually a really good point, because I know folks like that who stay stuck in this space, and really it's about fear,
Yeah.
like that pull back. See, for me, it's like, yeah, I feel it, but I'm not coming, like my undercurrent in my life is not fear. I don't show up in life from with this belief of being afraid.
Mhm.
Like I don't, that's not a part of me.
Yeah.
But I know many folks that have that undercurrent of fear, and that's the attachment
Yes.
to, right, the uncertainty.
The ego often wants to stay in that fear too. So let's just keep
Yeah.
looking. So I will drop in. I recently created a 5 simple everyday somatic tools, a PDF, and in that PDF is a little video of something that you can use. And I'll drop it in the comments. And so if you, would like to bring some safety with some somatic practices into your life, go ahead and check out that link. I'll drop it after we finish the video.
All righty, folks. I hope this was helpful to you. Use this process not just with what's happening in the world today, but just in your everyday experiences. If you're having a difficult time, feeling overwhelmed, do this. Okay, this is called sphere of control. So
Mm.
identify what your sphere of control is, what you can influence. Neither influence or control. This is our concern. And then think to yourself, how can I be helpful? How can I be
Awesome.
helpful?
Awesome.
All right, everyone, have a good rest of your day.
Bye, everybody.